Many people will give you their interpretation on questions you should ask on your path to progression. From where I stand, the first question you need to ask yourself on the path to progression is founded in who you think you are. That's not the question exactly. I have a little bit of a different wording on it. So, the foundational question that needs to be answered as you reach for who you are trying to become in this world is, who do you think you is? Now, I did not come up with this question on my own. I was helped by my environment. My rookie year as a correctional officer, I was interacting with hundreds of inmates. Specifically, there was this one elderly inmate that saw my behaviors and could tell that they weren't authentic. The way I was behaving was not authentic. It was not something that was coming from inside of myself. I was behaving in a manner that was told to me. I was behaving based off my environment, not based off of who I was. I was not using critical judgment at all. So this particular inmate would always say to me, "Who do you think you is?" He would say it to me every single day, to the point where when I would come home after my 8 hours, I would think, "Why is he always asking me that?" You know what I mean? Because he would say it out of anger, he would say it out of joy, he would say it in any different emotion. He kept repackaging this question to me, to the point where I had to sit back and in retrospect and think about the meaning of this question. And when I slowed the question down, it did become deep, and it became something useful to me and something unique, and it became the foundational question for my own progression. Who do you think you is? Very important to realize who you think you are, because who you think you are and who you actually are completely different. One is ideal and one is real. Now, the difficulty comes with people when they try to describe themselves is that many people don't want to accept that you don't actually know who you are at all. You have no clue. Trying to describe yourself, in the words of Alan Watts, is like trying to chew your own teeth. It is an impossibility. That being said, it does not mean that you relinquish trying to figure out who you think you is. I think it is very useful to put a positive interpretation on who you think you is instead of a negative interpretation. You see, as a man like me who works with many criminals, a lot of them are great examples and exaggerated examples of who you think you is gone wrong. You see, whenever you deal with a criminal and they're faced and they're affronted with the reality that they're not going to get their way, or they're faced and affronted with the reality that who they think they are has not been translated to the rest of the world, because it's not rooted in reality, they verbally will say it. "Oh, you think I'm this? I'm nobody's this. I'm a real," you can fill in and understand what I'm getting at. That's a great example of a thought trap. Now, the criminals are, or the offenders, they're an exaggerated example of, but we all do it, right? There is a version of yourself in your mind that you have defined, fine tuned, and you know who you think you is, but the world is not always satisfying that. So when you're in those moments where the world is not bending to your whim of who you think you are, you must accept that the narrative you're saying to yourself is not needed in this moment. In this moment, what is needed is your critical judgment. And what is needed in this moment is for who you think you are to become who you need to be right now. And that's why the answer to the question, "Who do you think you is incredibly important. Because if you think you are a person who's willing to do anything to make it, or if you think you are a person who is practical, or if you think you are a person who is useful, then in moments when you are affronted with the reality that the narrative you say about yourself is not conducive to what's actually happening right now, you will make the right decisions. But if you tell yourself that you are right, that you are smart, that you are this, that you are that, if you are pinning upon yourself attributes that you may have, but not to the extent that you believe, you're over exaggerating your self image. When presented with opportunities to make the right decision, you won't, because of who you think you are. Who you think you are being the foundation of communication and self realization. I use this as my personal first question that anybody I work with, anybody I speak to, if I have a one conversation with you and you ask me, oh, what do you think, how do you think people reach the next level? What I bring to people in my example is this question, because I think that this question is useful to gauge how close in proximity you will get to what I believe is the meaning of why we're here. The meaning of why we're here being to uncover that which we were always intended to be. One more time, the meaning of life being to uncover that which we were always intended to be. And you can never uncover that which you were intended to be if you never go through the process of self-discovery to figure out who you think you is, right? Because who you think you is who you, with the proper amount of work ethic, with a reality-based focus, with adjusting and critically thinking, who you think you is who you could become. You will spend a lifetime trying to reach the pinnacle of your existence, but that is the task here. That is the point of this thing that we call life. And before I end the video, I want to break it down one more time. I hope that I'm not talking in circles. I'm trying to make the point clear. Who do you think you is? I love to harp on think, because who you think you are is not who you actually are. And by the time you realize who you actually are and you actually thought it through, the time that it'll take for you to reach that level to, in retrospect, realize who you are or do the self-discovery of it, it won't even matter in the way that you think it'll matter. You think that it'll matter in the way of, well, I'm glad I did that. You think that it'll matter in the way of, oh, I'm so satisfied. I'm the man. I'm the woman. I'm the greatest. No. By the time you figure out who you actually are and you've done the self-discovery, you will realize that you were merely playing your small part in what helps this thing run. So hopefully at the end, once you've have a satisfactory answer to who you think you is, hopefully at the end, the best thing you can say is that you've done your best and you've left the world in a better condition, or you left the small part of the world that you had a hand in touching in a better position, and you've touched lives in a positive way. Hopefully that's what you can say at the end of it all when you figure out who you actually are. That is a high price and a high cost to ask. That's a lot to ask, but that is, once again, from my perspective, the goal of why we're here. To uncover that which you were always intended to be, to figure out who we are, and to, at the end of it all, be able to say we helped as many people as possible. And for the little short time that we were on Earth, we have made more people's lives better and not worse. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.